Welcome to Social Disruption, the show that shatters comfort zones, flips the script, and delivers unfiltered truth. I'm your host, Farrah, and joining me is my co-host.
I'm Cheyenne, and together we're here to disrupt the airways with real conversation, no filters, no apologies.
Trigger warning. This is a show where a spine isn't optional and the truth cuts deep, so let's get into it. All right, for everyone out there joining for our second live show, thank you so very much. We're happy that you're here. I have to start off by saying I was almost going to postpone this show because I thought that Parker was missing, aka Griff, my spider.
No.
Yeah. Real quick story. I had him out on his playset and the babies wanted their time, the birdies. So I scooted him off his playset and put him in his little enclosure. And he came back up to the door and was like, "No, I want to stay out with you." I was like, "No, you can't." So I shut the door. I come in to get ready for the podcast like at 5:30, and I don't see him anywhere in his enclosure, nothing. He's nowhere to be found. I'm looking high, low, in the corners. I'm crying. I'm bitching because I get angry really quick if something pisses me off. Then after about 20 minutes, Jake has a flashlight and he says, "Babe, he's right here." Where? There's this little bush on the right side on the bottom of his closure. He tucked himself in between the bushes, which he's never done before. You see his little beady eyes looking up at you with the flashlight. And I'm like, oh my God, I almost had a fucking heart attack.
That'll teach you to try to give the birdies more attention than you give to Griff. He is not one to be put in a corner. Nobody puts Griff in a corner. I am super glad that you were able to locate him.
Cheesy has been in her home for almost 2 weeks now because she's molting and she has not come out. Wouldn't you know? She must have heard me going nuts or something because she crawled out of her cocoon and she is bigger than she was and beautiful. I can't wait to take a picture and show you.
I was going to say pictures or it didn't happen.
All right, we've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Of course, as always, we start with the disruption report. And Cheyenne, kick us off with any sports, entertainment, or anything you just want to bring to the forefront.
Yes. I don't know if we have any listeners out there that are big NASCAR fans. Farrah, I don't know where you sit on the NASCAR, or Jay. Jay and I
love NASCAR.
Okay, good. All right. Jay and I are not super big fans. Because I cover sports here, I figured, let me look into that. This past Sunday, February 16th, the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida, had the Daytona 500. This is high-speed racing, and there was a notable appearance. President Donald J. Trump, boop, boop, attended the race at the Speedway in Florida. Now, this is the second visit to this iconic event. He arrived in his armored limousine named the Beast, led the drivers around in the ceremonial pace lap. And what was really cool is that President Trump addressed the drivers via radio. He was really expressing his admiration and wishing them a safe and enjoyable race. The cutest part ever, though, was his granddaughter, Caroline. Trump accompanied him and came out of the car, was waving at the supporters. It was just a nice moment. I enjoy seeing our president at these kinds of events. He was also at the Super Bowl. So cool to see him give the racers that support. They're putting themselves at risk. And for those who watched the Daytona 500, just for the crashes, there were multiple crashes that made changes in the outcome of this race. One incident I want to touch on was with involving driver Ryan Preece. I hope I'm saying his last name right. He had a dramatic crash in that final lap. His car collided with Bell's vehicle, flipped over multiple times before everything stopped and came to a halt. He emerged uninjured from the accident. So the other major crash that occurred, this was during an overtime restart, and it involved several drivers. There was a pileup which cleared the path for William Byron to secure his second consecutive Daytona 500 victory. He has some exceptional skills navigating through that last lap incident. So kudos to him. I don't know if you watched it or not, Farrah. Did you want to add anything or anything about NASCAR?
I want to add just how happy I was to see Air Force One do that little flyby. I think it's awesome that Donald Trump, again, whether you love him or you hate him, has really connected with the people. It just makes me have just this renewed love for America. He was the first sitting president to attend the Super Bowl, as you mentioned. He's probably the first president that has flown in Air Force One doing a flyby over the Daytona 500. This is the first of many things that he's doing with his administration. When you do fly into Daytona Airport, you fly right over. So you get to see the cars spinning. And I've been to Daytona a couple times. It's pretty cool. I think it's a great American sport.
It's really great to see him out there. I love that he brought his granddaughter. How cute is that? And talking to the drivers over the mic so that they could hear them. He was speaking.
The campaign's done. He's been elected. So he's just out there doing what he does. Nobody knows the Donald Trump behind closed doors. He's a great husband, father. Look at his kids. You can tell about a mother and a father the way that their kids are raised. All of his kids are successful. They could have been drug addicts. We know how that can turn. The grandchildren, they sit on his lap. He's just an all American good dad. He's a businessman. I love him. Even when he gets off the Air Force One or the helicopter, he's always saluting the Marines that stands there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're going to move on here to some celebrity coverage. Let's talk about Tom Hanks, folks. We all know Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump. I feel like he is going to find himself on a lonely island somewhere once again, so someone better send him a Wilson volleyball after his appearance on Saturday Night Live, the 50th anniversary special. He is facing significant backlash following his portrayal of the Trump supporter in the Black Jeopardy sketch during Saturday Night Live. He reprised his character Doug, wearing his MAGA hat, dressed, I hate to stereotype, but like a redneck, even hesitating to shake hands with the black host who's played by Kenan Thompson. So this depiction, who has been heavily criticized for perpetuating these stereotypes of Trump supporters as they're all racists. Former cast members have spoken out. They've labeled the sketch stupid, tired, overdone, and they're questioning exactly why they're targeting supporters of Trump, but not of other political figures. Victoria Jackson actually questioned why they're not doing any portrayals of Kamala Harris. I'd like to have that answered as well. I hope everybody's seated for this because the controversy on this skit extended to discussions on The View. But co-host Joy, she's actually siding with the MAGA fan base, which is shocking to me. Not sure if that's because she understands the jeopardy that she's putting, no pun intended there, but a little bit, The View into with her viewpoints. But she is supporting the MAGA fan base. She's saying the sketch is unfairly characterizing all Trump voters as racist. And she's not wrong. I completely agree with that. Social media platforms are abuzz. Users are accusing Hanks and Saturday Night Live of engaging in political propaganda to mock Trump supporters. These ongoing debates, which you and I have spoken about multiple times, Farrah, about the media representation of political groups and the fine line that they're walking between satire and perpetuating stereotypes.
I have seen Tom Hanks's original sketch. He did it years ago. I'm familiar with it. I heard about all the backlash he's getting, and he should.
Completely agree with you. I don't have anything new to report on Baldoni and Lively. I know that's been a topic of ours for a little bit. We'll see what happens once things start to unfold, but we're not going to even see a trial date until March of 2026. One thing I do want to correct with our listeners that caught our last show, I spread some fake news, and it's my bad. My reading ability got a little bit ahead of myself. When we spoke about the eggs and the avian flu, I spouted some numbers out, and my numbers were incorrect. So I want to correct my numbers really quickly. North Carolina, Indiana, and Missouri, over 3 million. Ohio, over 8 million. I said the wrong numbers, and this is related to the total egg-laying chickens lost as of February 7th. My numbers on the last episode were wrong. I am so sorry, everybody.
Much respect for correcting yourself. We got to do a better job double checking before we bring numbers like that. As we have spoke about before, the egg prices aren't going down. It's not Trump's doing. We now know there's more to it. There is a shortage because of the bird flu going around, people having to kill ducks and chickens.
I brought it to my own attention. I said, 300 million. No, that's crazy. So I wanted to correct myself.
Good deal. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. My update is usually in science, tech, movies, and TV, but I think I gave some good movies and TV recommendations the other day. If you missed those, definitely go back and catch our first live episode. But it's something new that I'm going to do with my science-y little genre. So I love the unexplained and the unknown. Came across. So I came across this Dogman encounter. One comes from Jack, a man who lost his brother, Preston, in what might be one of the most terrifying cryptid encounters ever reported. This came off of a YouTube channel that covers listener stories. Listeners send in their stories either by email, maybe they have a phone call. Back in 2001, Jack and Preston, who are brothers, were on a camping trip in New Mexico when they saw strange lights in the sky. At first, they thought maybe it was a UFO, but what came next was way worse. As they hiked back to camp, Preston suddenly froze, staring at something in the trees. That's when he saw it, a massive humanoid creature with the head of a wolf, a dogman. Preston barely had time to react before he screamed at Jack to run, and Jack did. He sprinted through the forest, making it to safety. But his brother, he never made it out. When the authorities recovered Preston's body, they told the family he died in a rock slide. But Jack knew better. For years, the guilt ate away at him. Then his wife arranged for him to see a psychic. And what came out of that reading? Absolutely chilling. The psychic claimed that not only was the dog man real, but it had actually felt sorrow over killing Preston. It was protecting something. Maybe it's young. Maybe it's territory. Whatever the case, the encounter had deeper meaning than just a senseless attack. And here's where it gets interesting. This isn't the only bizarre encounter reported in that region. New Mexico has long been a hotspot for strange activity. From UFOs to cryptid sightings, was this just a coincidence or is there something bigger at play? What do we know most about New Mexico? How strange this is out there. UFOs, alien beings, cryptids, New Mexico. We've had a lot of stories come out of that state. But don't you find that kind of odd? Why would that state not let anybody request death certificates?
Clearly, they're hiding something. That's where I go instantaneously.
So for all of y'all that do want some other crazy stories, I came across these. Now, did these happen recent? No, but you might not have heard about them. Some of them happened a month or two ago, but nothing longer than 2.5, 3 months ago. So first, commercial airlines near miss with an unidentified aerial phenomenon. A commercial aircraft experienced a close encounter with an unidentified aerial phenomenon off the coast of New York. The crew reported seeing a cylindrical object over the Atlantic Ocean, which was not detected on radar. This incident is among the 757 UAP cases reported in the past year, with many remaining unexplained due to insufficient information. Then we have Luis Elizondo. He is a former director of the Pentagon's AATIP, which is ATIP, has asserted that a secretive group within the government possess technology and biological materials of non-human origin. Elizondo's disclosures have intensified discussions about unidentified aerial phenomena and potential extraterrestrial encounters. And then the last one that I got for you here, Captain Ruud van Pigmemen, I hope I'm saying that correctly, probably not, A seasoned Boeing 747 pilot reported observing white orbs following his aircraft for over 2,000 miles from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria. Despite contacting air traffic control, the objects were not visible on radar. This captain documented the encounter, sharing videos that have sparked widespread intrigue and debate. So, yes, what is that? Either one of you seen the show Scandal? No, but I've heard of it. Jeremy, I don't know if you heard about the new documentary that I had mentioned before called The Program. If not, I highly suggest you watch it as well as The Phenomenon. Most people have watched it, but I started it. See, there you go. You're right on my wavelength. It's a great documentary. I'll always let you know about any new documentaries that hit the airways because as soon as something comes out, and I will be bringing you some stories, like I said, with my part of science and tech. But other than that was our disruption report. Cheyenne, anything you want to mention about anything that I covered in my report?
I didn't put myself on mute because I went right to the phone because I want to know why they won't give out the deaths. What is the reasoning for that? Have you researched? I can't find anything on the Google about why they refuse to give out the death certificates.
No, I researched myself. I was going to call the clerk of courts somewhere in New Mexico and ask them if they can give me a statement because when someone asks for a death certificate, on that death certificate is usually the cause of death. This story with Jack and Preston, the story was sent into this gentleman on YouTube because the brother apparently needs help on this case. But yeah, are you one of those people that think that we are just so important that we would be the people that fuck up society to be the only people on earth or in the cosmos?
No, I think that anybody who does think that way is insanely naive. But I'll share with our listeners, Jay, my soon to be husband, I still call him my husband. He has a wonderful theory. He believes that aliens are not coming from outside of our Earth's atmosphere. He believes that they are coming from the depths of our ocean. And that is a chilling and terrifying thought for me to get myself I'll go right down the rabbit hole, Farrah. If you've seen any of those weird fish or the megalodon information, there's some freaky stuff going on in our oceans. I'm not one to mess around with that, but no, I'm not as naive to think or as grandiose to think we are the only beings that exist in this entire solar system or on this entire planet.
And they're known to live subterranean as well, which is why they're so much against us using nuclear weapons. So just throwing that out there too. I will be bringing some other stories and information. But for now, hey, grab a drink, grab a snack. And when we come back, we'll be going over some pretty crazy headlines. So stay tuned. This is Social Disruption. We are back. I hope everybody got their drink, went to the restroom. So, Cheyenne, start us off. What do you got for the main meat and potatoes tonight?
I was conflicted going back and forth because I have a really heartwarming story that I want to throw out here, which is from my state of Connecticut. And I thought, do I start off with that or do I end with that to then lighten the mood? But I know that, Farrah, you've got heavy stuff to talk about. So I'm going to just start us off with the heartwarming story. Farrah and I are huge animal lovers, arachnids, reptiles, all of the things non-humans. So here is a wonderful story. On February 16th, a juvenile gray seal was discovered wandering the streets of New Haven, Connecticut. The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection want to ensure the seal's safety. The animal was transported to our fabulous Mystic Aquarium up here in Connecticut. It's beautiful. If anybody ever visits, please come and check it out. We don't have many things in Connecticut, but the Mystic Aquarium is one of them. The seal is estimated to be around 6 weeks old and weighed only 28 pounds. I was so sad, but we rescued it. The aquarium staff has already started treatment plans, feeding it fresh fish-based formula, and conducting fish school sessions. How cute is that? To teach the seal how to recognize and consume fish independently. They do not know what happened to the seal's mom, but it was literally wandering the streets of New Haven, Connecticut. So shout out to the Mystic Aquarium people for rescuing that baby seal. And I hope that its recovery is very speedy and that it is able to be integrated back into its wild, into the ocean, which could be terrifying for the seal, but I think that it's going to make it.
I love it. Anything that saves an animal, I'm all for it.
I'm going to move into the heavier topics that I have, and not to upset any of our listeners that perhaps have to take a flight soon. February 17th, 2025, Delta Airlines Flight 4819 had a severe accident upon landing at the Toronto International Airport. I don't know if anybody out there has watched any of these videos. Of course, people that were on the flight pulled out those phones and started recording so that we could actually see what was going on. During the landing, the plane skidded, flipped upside down, and briefly ignited. Remarkably, all the passengers and the crew survived. There are 18 individuals that did sustain some injuries. There were 3 that included a child. So that child is still in critical condition. Prayers go out. Investigations by the Transportation Safety Board of Canada and the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board are underway to determine what exactly the cause of this incident was. Since January 1st, there have been multiple aviation incidents in North America. Notably, 4 major plane crashes in the United States have resulted in a total of 85 fatalities. These incidents include the mid-air collision in Washington, D.C., and crashes in Alaska and Philadelphia. Prior to 2025, the last fatal crash involving a U.S. airliner occurred in 2009. What are your thoughts on that?
I did see that video. It was scary. It looked to me like it skidded and it rolled over a couple times, but thank God people survived. If you look at how many crashes there are yearly, I think certain mainstream medias are going to cover it more than usual because Trump is in office. Everyone wants to make him look bad. Prayers for the little girl. I know a lot of people are scared to fly right now, and I don't blame them. I hate to put it bluntly. We're all going to die. We can't say when, and we can't fix it by not getting on a plane. We can't fear those type of things.
You start poking around over there in New Mexico and asking them for statements, you might end up abducted by a UFO.
Exactly, or the government, either one.
I also just wanted to throw out the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, reported 62 aviation accidents in January of 2025 and 26 in February. This is across the United States. While none of those incidents were fatal or involved commercial airlines, the data indicates a concerning uptick in aviation-related incidents during this time period. So everybody just be safe, be careful. Farrah said it. If you don't have to fly, maybe do a road trip. My boys and I, we love some road trips.
I love road trips too. Tennessee welcomes you.
I've never been and I really want to go. So yes, absolutely. Let's talk about Kentucky because I know that you covered some of that on our last live. So between February 14th and 15th, Kentucky received widespread rainfalls totaling ranges from 2 to over 6 inches. And you know that the severe flooding resulted right now in at least 14 fatalities, which again included a 7-year-old girl and her mother. Oh, so sad about that. Prayers go out to all of the people of Kentucky. President Trump is responding to the crisis immediately, so that's great. He signed a federal emergency declaration for Kentucky. Federal assistance and recovery efforts, they are on the way. The dual impact of flooding and snowfall has really strained local resources and infrastructures. Authorities continue to urge residents to remain vigilant, avoid flooded or icy roadways, and adhere to all local emergency mandates, directives, relief operations, proceedings. Everybody stay vigilant, stay aware of what is going on.
And I'm here in Tennessee, and let me tell you how crazy it is. Friday or Saturday, we were at 63 degrees with tornado watches. It was downpouring. We had the flash flood advisory for 2 days straight. That same night, it drops from 63 degrees to 30 degrees. Then it changes. My phone looked so weird because I had these flash flood, tornado, and then boom, winter weather advisory all in the same night. We had the flash floods, we had roads closed here, people's yards were flooded. It was a mess. And then yesterday, we get, hey, winter storm warning. Wake up today. Jake doesn't have to go to school because the roads are bad. We look outside, everything is covered in snow. And this area in Tennessee does not get snow like this. There's like at least 3 to 5 inches. The roads are covered. You can't see the difference between someone's yard and the road because it's just all covered. There's probably a foot of snow on top of the cars, and the temperatures dropped drastically. So it's very weird weather here. We had some power outages, internet outages after the power outages. It's just been crazy.
Yeah, I'm up here in Connecticut, and I know everybody's saying, "Well, you live in New England; it's to be expected." Absolutely, I'm not to be in New England or maybe even here in Connecticut. Our front yard and our backyard right now are like a frozen tundra. It is just inches of snow with ice sitting on top of it. It was a very weird storm that hit us over this past weekend, and the temperatures continue to be extremely cold. And the roads are not that great because they weren't able to get all of the ice up. Just hoping everybody stays safe. And let's just get through this winter season and beat spring already. I want to move on to something. And Farrah, I am curious if you have heard about this. And I hope that I'm going to pronounce everything correctly. The Zizian cult arrests. Have you heard anything about this?
No, I have not.
Oh, I'm so excited that I am bringing you some new information. Maryland State Police have arrested Jack Ziz Lasado, Daniel Blank, and Michelle Zagko, leaders of the radical cult known as the Zizarians, which has been linked to several homicides across the United States. This group, which promotes I don't even know how else to say this, but with a slight smirk, it promotes a radical vegan philosophy combined with extreme online ideologies and has drawn a lot of concern for its alleged involvement in violent activities. The arrests were made on charges of trespassing, obstruction, illegal firearm possession, and a few other things, but authorities suspect that they're tied to multiple homicides, including the fatal shooting of a border agent from Vermont. They believe that they have found the people who are responsible for it. This cult consists mostly of young intellectuals, tech workers, computer scientists, many of whom embrace the movement through its online forums and digital manifestos. Several members of the Zizarian cult identify as transgender. Authorities have been monitoring this group due to its escalating rhetoric online and possible criminal activities, while reports suggest its operation is through a mix of underground gathering, encrypted communications, and survivalist ideology. Law enforcement agents are continuing their investigation to determine the full extent of the cult's operation and whether more individuals are involved. I am very excited to hear what you have for us today, Farrah.
You had some great coverage. I'm not sure if people are a Sean Ryan fan. I advise you to at least watch and try to get a feel of what he's trying to do by bringing truth to the forefront. I want to talk about the funding of the Taliban. I think it is a very important topic because how are we to fight the Taliban when we're funding the Taliban at the same time? So about a year ago was the first time that Sarah Adams, a CIA agent, was first on the show. A little bit about Sarah Adams. Analysts piece together information to answer policymakers' questions. Targeters focus on identifying and planning how to act on threats. She describes a targeter's mission as bridging the gap between operations and intelligence, a mission she carried out by driving real-world decisions that impacted global security. Now, one of the most shocking claims that Adams had discussed was that the U.S. now shares intelligence with the Taliban. Let that sink in again. The US now shares intelligence with the Taliban, a group with deep ties to Al Qaeda. This controversial relationship raises difficult questions about America's approach to counterterrorism and whether such alliances put more than credibility at risk. The US government's financial dealings with Afghanistan, particularly post 2021, have raised significant concerns about taxpayer funds indirectly benefiting the Taliban. Here's a breakdown of the key financial flows. So, frozen Afghan assets are a total of $7 billion. So 3.5 billion of that 7 billion was designated by President Biden to compensate victims of the 9/11 attacks. However, in February 2023, a judge blocked this payout on constitutional ground. 3.5 billion was transferred to a Swiss-based trust fund intended to support the Afghan people. But what they're finding out now is that the Afghan people, the Taliban families, anyone that fights with the Taliban, we are giving them money. Now, whether you think that should be done or not, that's your opinion. In my opinion, no, because those people are just as directly related to their Taliban commanders. You don't think that those women would put a bomb up their dress and go into a crowd of 10 US troops if they were asked to? Definitely they would. Moving on, ongoing cash shipments. Did you know that between $43 million and $87 million weekly are being put on a pallet and sent to the Taliban? Then there is even someone that meets them at the drop-off point and carries the cash directly to the Taliban, knocks on the door. The Taliban commander opens the door and gets the money. And these funds are delivered to Afghan central bank and subsequently distributed to various non-government organizations, or AKA NGOs, for, quote, humanitarian and development projects. As we're seeing with the fraud, waste, and abuse being projected out there, what are we noticing? That they are being coded wrong or not coded at all. So, for example, when Elon and Trump will get a sheet and it will say 3 million goes to, what's the code? There's no code. And then it'll ask them for a description of what it's for. There's nothing written. So, do you really think that these are going to humanitarian aid for the Afghani people? Not when the Taliban's in charge. Are you crazy? Come on. The Afghan people are being raised by the Taliban now. If you go over there, no water, no electricity. We went over there, bombed the fuck out of this country, and then left these poor people stranded. And now we're giving money to the Taliban. My question, is it a payoff to not to have them do any terror attacks over here in the US?
I think we have a right to know what's going on. I'm grateful that Musk is giving us that opportunity. I think it's a classic case of don't shoot the messenger. He's just here delivering the news of his findings. I don't know why people are upset with him about this. The outrage should really be appropriately placed on the people that have been making these decisions. And no, I don't think that woman would think twice about being asked to step into a crowd and pull a trigger and blow something up. She would 100% do it. She's being told to do it. And that's part of the culture. They will follow what they are told to do. I don't think that any of our money should be going to fund anything like what you're talking about. It's outrageous.
And I'm going to try to play from my phone a couple of the shorts from Sarah Adams's interview so you can hear a couple other things that she dropped the bomb on.
Biggest issue with GDI right now is they're holding 2 Americans hostage. For everyone who just heard that, yes, you're being lied to. The American in custody, Ryan Corbett, is locked in a cell with another American. It's never been made public. The Taliban are actually holding 3 Americans. Last week, the Chris finally realized it's 2, but they don't even know. So Taliban's holding 3 Americans. 2 are locked in a cell together, okay? We are paying them weekly to go after ISIS. And they basically had 2 Americans locked in their basement. basement, suffering severe health consequences in GDI.
Who are they?
Ryan Corbett is one of them. And then the other one hasn't been made public. The other two Americans haven't been made public yet. So that's the biggest problem. We should not be giving a penny to the organization holding Americans in their basement. The amount of money on the plane weekly is $43 million to $87 million. That one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the $40 million we send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' family. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend. Those Americans who died there are getting schooled. But we are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
Just a little bit of what from that interview I wanted you to hear. Now, she came back on a couple months ago because she had gotten a letter from the Pentagon warning her to shut her mouth, which I find quite funny because no one else was telling us. Did you ever know about the $43 to $87 million being paid to Taliban commanders and their families? I didn't.
I had no idea.
Exactly. She was on again, and I want you to hear some things that she had said. This is her newest interview. Oh, there we go.
Think that she could get
This is Hillary.
Server, because that would be the evidence of the activities everyone said she did. And that's got wiped, that info. There's probably some emails in there with Benghazi attacks, but that's not the way people cared about what was on the server.
And it just got wiped.
Okay, so what she was talking about there, and this is another reason why I think everybody should watch both of her interviews. We were all lied to about the Benghazi attack, and Hillary Clinton should be tried as a war criminal, and she should be thrown in the slammer because if you heard the interviews with Kash Patel about the Benghazi attack, Hillary, when she was Secretary of State in the Obama administration, she had her own computer set up by the U.S. government, but in her home.
Stop it. No.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that.
Absolutely not.
A government server in her home. Those 30,000 emails that her Democrat voter lovers just want to say, oh no, that was nothing bad. Hillary Clinton lied on that Benghazi attack, and men died because of it. Men were killed, and Hillary knew about it. If you ever caught her in the Senate hearings when she was being questioned about the attack, you will see acts like, what's the big deal? Her and Biden and Obama, they're just disgusting people. The fact that we're funding this Taliban, how can we fight a war on terror when we're funding it? How?
Over the past 4 years, it was always look over here, look over there, shiny squirrel. I mean, it was all the distraction techniques that they could come up with to not make us look in the direction where we should have been looking. And it's the same thing with her smashing the Blackberries. Come on. We all know that happened. I don't know why people still talk so highly of her. She didn't do anything to protect American people, American lives. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And my next story. So apparently there was something going through the grapevine about Ukraine selling American weapon systems on the black market and possibly to the cartel. But in a recent interview, Ukrainian President Zelensky addressed concerns regarding the allocation of U.S. aid to Ukraine. He clarified that of the approximately $177 billion in aid approved by the U.S., Ukraine has directly received about $76 billion. Now, this discrepancy arises because a significant portion of the aid is utilized within the U.S., funding domestic weapons manufacturers and U.S. military operations, rather than being transferred directly to Ukraine. This allocation aligns with the intention set by Congress and does not indicate any misappropriation or laundering of funds. But my question is, why is Zelensky making these allegations if our government is saying this money could be coded differently and not go directly to Ukraine? Then why is Zelensky saying that he's missing 76 million if he's not missing 76 million? Why isn't he saying, oh, yeah, your government is going to make some weapons for us, so I wouldn't receive that money directly? Why isn't he saying that then? Why is he saying he's missing money, period? He's not saying, oh, yeah, I only got 76 billion, but your government is making weapons for us.
We're talking logic here. That's what we're talking. People that don't want to live in the logic realm, then they can continue living on air fluff and clouds. But that's not the reality of what is going on and what is being uncovered. It's like the pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We must pay attention. We need to be looking behind the curtain because everything that we're being shown is a facade. It's fake news. It's the media. It's splitting people. It's causing more divisiveness. And it's which pill are you going to take? The red pill or the blue pill? Or in the Matrix. It's insane.
I really think that a lot of the news sources that are reporting this as, oh no, they're lying. Because if you cheated on your taxes, no, you're not going to bring it up if you're cheating on your taxes. So if you don't want to get caught for something or you don't want to be audited, then you wouldn't be talking to your best friend, your mom wine group, or your husband's trucking group that, oh, I don't pay taxes, because then how are you going to deal with when the IRS knocks on your door? Are you going to say that all your friends and everybody was lying? No. So you don't say something. I don't know. It's just funny to me.
It's interesting that you're like, you don't say it at your mom wine group or at your buddy's poker game. But yet here we have people like we spoke about on our last episode going on TikTok about how they're scamming the system. And then when the system finds out and they're reported, they're then mad. They need look no further than a mirror, and the person they see in that mirror, that is who is at fault.
That reminds me what I was going to bring up today. I didn't put it in my Google Docs because it just happened before the show started. So let me ask you something, Cheyenne. Did you get an email today from the Social Security Administration?
No, I started a new job today, so I really haven't had time. I got home from work and I immediately started working on this episode. No, did you get one, and are you going to share what it was so then I can go do a deep dive in my Gmail?
I find this really funny. I got this email from literally the Social Security Administration called National Slam the Scam Day, March 6, 2025. Now, I've had the same personal email account with Gmail for 15 years, maybe even 20. I've never seen this email before. Like, I've never gotten one before. It says, on National Slam the Scam Day and throughout the year, we give you the tools to recognize Social Security related scams and stop scammers from stealing your money and your personal information. Help protect your loved ones and people in your community this Slam the Scam Day. Information can empower you to quickly recognize a scam. Signs of a scam include an unexpected problem or offer of a prize or benefit, pressure to act immediately, and a request for an unusual payment like cryptocurrency, gift cards, gold bars, and wire transfers, even with the promise of keeping your money, quote, safe. Victims shouldn't be embarrassed if they shared personal information or suffered a financial loss. We are all vulnerable. Sharing our scam alert fact sheet and helping educate others about how to protect themselves. Report a scam today. Visit www.ssa.gov/scam. For more information, follow SSAOIG on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. Even if this was a thing, March 6th of every year, I'm 47 years old. Never once have I heard of it. Never once have I got an email. My Social Security Administration is set as a non-spam because I get my yearly reports to my email of what my Social Security would be if I would happen to need and claim SSI. So I made sure it's never been in my scam before. I just find it funny that since the Social Security Administration just got shown last week that there are, let me pull this up, and I'm going to make sure that I put this in our show notes too, if you all didn't know. Let me read this off to you. This came right from the Social Security area website. So between the ages of 100 and 109 years old, okay, there are 4,734,407 people in SSI. Okay. When have you really seen 109, 110 years old? We don't see these ages, but you're going to tell me there's 4 million between 100 and 109 years old? Okay, maybe let's go down one more. 110 years old to 119 years old. 3,627,000. We go to 120 to 129 years old. 472,849. 130 to 139, 140 to 149, 3,542,044. 150 years old to 159, 1,345,063. 160 years old to 169 years old, 121,000 people. Hell, there's even 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229.
Okay, question. How many of those people voted?
Exactly.
While you were talking, I pulled up two things. Naomi Whitehead, born in Georgia on September 26, 1910, was the oldest living person in the United States. And she was in a senior living community in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. Did I say that right? You're from Pennsylvania. Mercer?
Yeah, Mercer.
Yep, Mercer County, Pennsylvania. Okay, so
I was born and raised in Mercer County.
Listen, you might have known Miss Whitehead. She looks like a very nice lady. And prior to that, there were not that many people, if you look it up, how old they got to. She was actually the oldest, and again, died at the age of 115. So I would like to know how many of those people voted. The other thing is, when you started reading that letter, I did search in my Gmail. I don't have anything yet, but our last names are in a different part of the alphabet. So mine might be coming. I did go on to the oig.ssa.gov website, which is the Office of the Inspector General. And it says right here, this was published on February 13th, 2025. Join us on March 6th, 2025 for our 6th annual National Slam the Scam Day.
I think they had it as a cover. If they've had it for the past 6 years, Cheyenne, they did not advertise it. They didn't advertise it for a reason.
I agree. And I'm going to see if I get that email as well. And when I do, I will most certainly be running to the keyboard to text you. But as far as those age brackets go, the math is not mathing. And secondly, I would never want myself or anybody else to live up into the age of 200. This woman at 115, although she did look good in the photo that I saw online, no disrespect to Mrs. Whitehead or her family, but there is no way on the planet that all of these people and the numbers that you just gave us of the ages and how many there are, there's no way that this would not have been uncovered or discovered prior to. So again, I ask, how many of those people went to vote in the election?
If you did look, Timcast IR did some shows during the election. And when it got, he pulled up the Social Security Administration voter registrations for each state. Let me tell you, the numbers of dead people that voted, it would show the numbers in this SS system of people that wrote down the wrong Social Security number, were dead, but filled out a voter card, and or didn't have ID. And this was the first year that they were kicking them back. No, you need to come in and show us why this is the way it is. It's saying you're dead. And the numbers were staggering. I think one was like 600,000 fucking dead people voted. So, it's good to see that at least this year it was looked at more. What makes me think 4 years ago in the 2020 election, how many of those were the same as it was this year, but someone was paid off to take those votes and just count them?
It's egregious to me. And I'll just share quickly an experience that I had during the 2020 election. Now, my stepfather passed away in 2016. My mom passed away in 2018. When I went to vote in 2020, we all still shared the same address. So I had to go to a different town to vote because I hadn't yet shifted everything over. And because when you vote, they list you, at least up here in Connecticut, by your street address. So when I got there, I saw that both my stepfather's name and my mother's name were crossed off. And I gave them my ID. They cross-referenced it. They crossed off mine. And I said to them, why are these two names crossed off here? And the response was because they've already voted. I said, really? That's interesting, because he died in 2016 and she died in 2018. And the looks that I got, and then there was like this little meeting of the minds over in the corner. And then they handed me the ballot and they said, oh, no, I'm sorry. They're crossed off because they won't be coming in to vote. It was a very sketchy thing. And then I had a security gentleman who watched me while I voted, watched me put it in the ballot, and then escorted me out of the building. It was very suspect and sketchy.
Oh, that's crazy. See, then we all know it happens. So that's something that I did want to follow up with. One thing that I found interesting. How about Egypt announced their first discovery of a royal tomb since King Tut's was found over a century ago. A royal tomb belonging to King, I hope I'm going to say this right, Thutmose, so it's Thutmose, the second, has been discovered, marking the first find of an Egyptian king tombs in a century, according to Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The tomb is located about 2.4 kilometers west of the Valley of Kings in Luxor and was initially thought to belong to a royal consort. Inscriptions found, though, in the tomb identified Thutmose II as the deceased king and included the name of his wife, according to Dr. Muhammad Ismail Khalid, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities.
I have chills over here. I have to tell you this. So Declan, who's my 11-year-old, he had to do a 6th grade project. This is his big project, and he's been working on it for over 5 weeks now. And the focus was on ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. He created this 12-page field guide about it. And while he was going through it, I learned so much, but he is so into this whole ancient Egyptian artifacts and discoveries and all of that. I just texted him while you were talking and said, Farrah's covering it on the podcast, because he is going to be so jazzed to research this on his own and find out what he can find out. How amazing is that?
And that's why from now on with the lives, I have been researching and studying ancient civilizations, the paranormal cryptids for about 15 to 20 years now. I've even been boots on the ground researching. I will bring something interesting in the field of cryptozoology or the paranormal or some alien abductions, because I find there's a lot of stories out there. So on Friday, we will be broadcasting to YouTube and Rumble, and take a listen to the show's topic.
9 years sober, money launderer for the cartel, $32 million lost, prison time, redemption. Rahul Athavale had it all, then lost everything. But instead of staying down, he rebuilt his wealth and his life, now splitting his time between Mexico and Greece, working just 5 hours a day and helping others find financial freedom. We're diving deep into his unbelievable journey this Friday, February 21st, 6:30 p.m. Central Time on our Social Disruption YouTube channel. Join us for real talk, no filter, no bullshit. See you there.
Other than that, next Monday, when we are on Podbean, we got a great show for you. Our whole episode will be the culture war. What are we going to talk about? Well, should porn be illegal? And we are going to have a guest, Vic Legina, that was actually a porn producer and director. We wanted him to sit in on this conversation. Right now, with OnlyFans being a big thing, back in the day, we had, what was it, Ashley Madison, where you can cheat on your spouse and make it fun. And boy, did that result in a lot of divorces. Holy shit. So you definitely got to stay tuned for Friday and Monday's show. We have so many guests lined up coming on too that are going to come on live and talk. So that way you guys can be involved. Ask questions. We have a combat spy coming on that was sent by the U.S. military to infiltrate in the Taliban communities. We have a lady that's a cardiologist turned murder author, a demon hunter, and so much more. I hope you guys will come back. And other than that, thank you so much for joining us.
This has been an excellent experience. I thoroughly enjoy doing these lives. Episodes are going to be published on all streaming platforms the following day, and we are looking for guests. You want to share your story on mental health, trauma, addiction, news, or society and culture? Or maybe you have a unique job or lifestyle for our Day in the Life segment. Let's talk.
And make sure that you follow us and reach out on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok at Social Disruption Pod. On X, we are at Raw Disruptor. And on Rumble and Truth Social, we are at Raw_Disruptor. So until next time, stay bold,
Stay unapologetic.
stay disruptive.